Konbanwa Mina, Proto-moto Des, and today I have a structure deck opening, which is Shaddoll Showdown. So, you've probably seen or heard of this deck before if you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta League, because there are a couple cards in here that make a lot of changes, that make Shaddolls a lot more viable, unless a lot more cheaper than what it used to be. So yeah, so let's just open this up. So, the reason why I bought this is because I'm going to build a deck sooner or later containing Dragon Maids and Shadolls, but I thought it'd just be good to open up for the channel right now. This is the unlimited edition. If you're going to pay for the first edition, that's probably going to be $80 to $90 out of your pocket, just because these structure decks went out fast. There were not a lot on the market at the time, and then when the pandemic hit, it kind of stopped all production of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and then so on. So let's just take a look at what we get. So overall within this deck, it's really like a neat toolbox to use your opponent's monsters as fusion material for your own. But we'll just take a look into this. So this is El Shaddoll Grista. A rock fusion, one Shaddoll monster and fire monster. So basically the game of Shadolls is using multiple element of monsters and Shadolls to go into your fusion plays. And this one pretty much says, if your opponent special summons a monster while you have a Shaddoll card in hand, you quick effect negate the summon. And if you do destroy that card, then send one Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. So another big part of this deck is that a lot of the mainline Shaddoll monsters have graveyard effects. So when you send them to the grave by card effect, the effect will go off. So it's a lot of chain blocking, which is really interesting to see within the game right now. El Shaddoll Apkalone, basically you, on the special summon for the rest of the turn, you could negate one card in the field. And then if this card's in the graveyard, add one Shaddoll card from your deck to your graveyard, or deck or graveyard to your hand, so that's basically it's recurring. Construct's really neat because it basically, if your opponent controls a special summon monster and it attacks, you basically destroy that monster without doing damage calculation. And this is one of the newer cards, CAD Shaddoll Kios. Kios is really interesting because it's the only light monster currently within the Shaddoll main deck archetype. A lot of people don't really play it just because it's not that great to go into Construct. You really should be using either your opponent's materials, or you should be using some other light monster within by using Shaddoll Fusion. But we'll get to that later on. This is one of Shaddoll Wendy is actually one of the better cards. This definitely is running at 3 of in the deck. This basically, anytime sent to the graveyard, you basically special summon from the deck to the field. And then Nail Shaddoll Ariel. This is basically a good card to if your opponent is really heavy reliant on your graveyard. If you send this card to the graveyard by a card effect, you basically banish 3 cards from either graveyard. So you could do 1 of yours and 2 of theirs, or you could banish all three cards inside their graveyard, which is really nice, and it's interesting to see that kind of play. Here's Shaddoll Incarnation. Basically, this card kind of is like the Monster Reborn of the deck. Basically, you once per turn you could once per turn you special summon one Shaddoll monster in graveyard in face up or face down defense position, and then you can banish this card and one Shaddoll card in your graveyard to flip up a Shaddoll monster or Shaddoll card. El Shaddoll Window, one of the best cards in the deck. This basically prevents your opponent from normal special summoning afterwards. So basically, if you have this on the field and they special summon one monster, they can't do any more special summons. So it's a good control lockdown combo. El Shaddoll Shekinaga. This is one of the weirder ones just because it is a machine one. It doesn't really fit in within the whole like Spellcatcher Psychic archetype. But when special summoned a monster activate effect, you could negate the effect and destroy it, basically, by using similar effect to El Shaddoll Grista. And here we go. Here's what you really want to have. Shaddoll Fusion. So basically, when your opponent controls an extra monster summon for the extra deck, you could use this card to send materials from your deck to the graveyard, and this also counts as sending your sort of like Winda, or sorry, not your Wendy's, as well as your other like Hedgehog or Falco to the graveyards. Speaking of Falco, here's Shaddoll Falco. Basically, it's the only tuner of the deck, which is really weird because Hedgehog is based on another card. then that was a tuner. But you're not going to be using a lot of synchro plays inside of this because it is a level 2. It's not really great for the higher rank ones, but if you could get another level 2 on board, you could go into Herald of Arclight, which basically negates all hand traps. Shaddoll Hedgehog. This is a good card just because when sent to graveyard, you add one Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand. Shaddoll Schemata, good flip effect, destroys one monster on the field, and then when it's sent to the graveyard, you could send one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. So basically, this is kind of like dragging down another card from this. So you might send Schemata, then Chainlink, then send your Hedgehog, and then get one other monster in hand. Dragon is basic set back row destruction. One's on the graveyard. Beast is a draw effect, so basically if you draw 2 if it's flipped and discard 1. If this card's on the graveyard, you just draw 1 card. Shaddoll Hound, this card does not see any play. It's not really useful in a lot of stuff, but if the flip effect is you can target 1 Shaddoll card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. If this card is sent to the field sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 monster on the field, just change its battle position. Flip monsters effects are not activated except Shaddoll, so there's a lot more barriers to go through to activate its effects, which is kind of bad. Shaddoll Zephyr and Shaddoll's Core, they're just basically Shaddoll monsters. They're not really the greatest scales, I guess, because Pendulum doesn't really like to play well with a lot of the mainline and normal decks, just because of these kind of scales. Like there's no way to physically search them out without using other Zephyr cards. And then here we go into the kind of support, I guess you would say. So we have a BLLS and one at the beginning, a Lava Golem, Dark Arm Dragon, Fairytale Sleeper, Performing Trick Clown, Armageddon Knight, Fearless Lightsworn Archer, Electromagnetic Turtle, Mathematician, Kree Bandit, Parapacerapris, Curse of the Shadow Prison, El Shaddoll Fusion, which is a really good quick play. Basically, you could basically summon a Shaddoll Fusion using cards in your hand and field during your opponent's turn, which is great if your opponent decides to special summon something. Nef Shaddoll Fusion. This is another card that you could go into Construct by declaring the monster you equip it to as a light monster and using your monsters in your hand or field to go into fusion monsters. And he's probably one of the best cards inside the deck as a reprint. Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization is one of the best cards in the current meta. If you're running a fusion deck, and if you're running Shaddolls as a side engine against other meta cards, this is the card you want to see 10 out of 10, because a lot of times, the meta right now is the Dragon Link and a lot of dark type monsters. So what you want to do is you want to always keep one side of Starving Venom Dragon or a couple other good fusion targets. Instant Fusion, really good, because Winda is a level 5, you could special summon this and then kind of lock down your opponent, or you could fusion summon something else. It's a good pickup card. Definitely wouldn't really run it inside mainline Shaddolls, though, in overall. Allure Darkness is just draw power, really good. Banish 1, draw 2. Foolish Burial, also another good card, just because it's a lot of card effects going to graveyard, so definitely include it. Living Fossils, a revival effect. Pot of Avarice helps recycle resources. Twin Twisters is good for back row destruction. Shaddoll Core, not really seeing a lot of play currently. It's one of those monsters where it's a trap monster, so you special summon from the back row and it becomes any attribute you want for a Shaddoll summon, but it's kind of slow because it's a trap. Sinister Shadow Game's not really that good of a card. Send one Shaddoll card from the deck to the graveyard, then you can change one number face down position. Monsters to face up defense position. Pure Shaddoll Aeon, not really that great of a card. Target one Shaddoll you control and one send Shaddoll card from your hand or graveyard, and if you do, target one monster that gains 1,000 attack. Lost Wind, good for just stopping general back row. Oh, no, actually, never mind. That's not back row negating. Target one face-up monster special summon from the field. Negate its effects. Also, the original attack is half. If the monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck while this card is in your graveyard, you can set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Unending Nightmare. Pay 1,000 life points on target one face-up spell and trap on the field. Destroy it. Necro Fusion. It's okay. This card wouldn't run into mainline in your main deck, but it could be a good side deck choice if you're milling through resources too fast. Subterra Succession is just flip support that allows you to get backflip monsters and flip them above and such. Here's the last couple cards. So we have El Shaddoll Wendigo. This is kind of helping prevent destruction of your own monsters. And this is El Shaddoll Analatus. And this is a water monster. And neither player can special summon from the hand or graveyard with spell or trap effects. And then you have Shaddoll Constructs, which allows you to help you fusion summon, but not a lot of times you're going to be running in the Link 2. So. And then we have these cool little side cards that we have, little placeholders for Duel Links, and then for the structure deck. So my thoughts on this deck is that you don't need to spend $80 like I did to buy 3. You should use TCG Player, and a lot of these cards are really cheap because you do not need majority of these cards. If anything, cards you want are Shaddoll Fusion, Wendy, Shaddoll Incarnation, El Shaddoll Construct, and then you have Ariel, Wendy, and you go for, and you have the Falco, Hedgehog, Squamata, and Dragon. So basically you only really want to buy the Shaddoll cores part of it. Like overall, there's not much to say in terms of this deck in terms of like how good of it being like a structure deck fully, and it's really great support for the archetype because it allows you to go through resources much faster. But if you're going to buy anything, don't buy the entire structure deck. You should just buy the singles off TCG Player, as you always should do in certain situations. But nice reprints like Super Poly, Instant Fusion, and so on are really good, just because it allows you to access your opponent's monsters as well as your own monsters within your extra deck. So, yep. I'll definitely leave a link in the description below to the TCG Player where you can find the prices, but overall, I do recommend just buying the core singles rather than the entire structure deck, because that is just way too much money for what it's worth. If you want to spend the money, go ahead, but I do not recommend it. So if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and tell me what structure deck should I review next, or whatever content you want to see on the channel. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Sayonara.